It's tough being a Raider fan.
And you tell them one thing. Just win, baby.
It's because you're not feeling Uzi.
As you guys may already know, the Raiders lost this past weekend 23-18 to the Pittsburgh Steelers for our home opener game, the first game here in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. And man, oh man, what a game it was. The score looked a little bit closer than it actually was, but for the most part, the Raiders look just as horrible as they did the week prior against the Buffalo Bills. Now, I know I wanted to drop a video right after the game, but man, my voice was shot. I'm barely getting my voice back right now. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to just talk about this team and how much this team just stresses me out. But first and foremost, man, I want to talk about the weekend in general, man. The whole weekend was lit, man. The whole city was up. Raidernation was going hard. Obviously, we had a lot of events. Deuce Nation, we had events on Friday, Saturday, and we even had a huge tailgate on Sunday. I had the pregame party at Mandalay Bay at the Rhythm and Riffs Lounge. Shout out to Woods and Whiskey. We had the Woods and Whiskey pregame party with the GOAT, Charles Woodson, man. Shout out to the GOAT, man. It's always a pleasure to see him, and it was definitely a pleasure to share the stage with the GOAT. Everything just seemed great, man, until the game actually started. Like I said earlier, though, it's definitely tough being a Raider fan, especially an optimistic Raider fan. And I have been an optimistic Raider fan. Some may say delusional, and I'll take that as well because I always seem to have some hope in this team, man, over and over and over again. And I can admit to you guys, Raider Nation, that I was wrong. I was definitely wrong. I spoke so much of the optimism going into the season. I talked highly of Josh McDaniels. You know, there was a lot of shimmer of hope after last season. Going into this season, we got a new quarterback in Jimmy G, and I even had optimism in him, thinking that he could turn this team around. And in 3 weeks, we are definitely the team that a lot of people know that we are. You know, that first game that we won against the Denver Broncos, I know we only won by 1 point, but I still had optimism. I thought that this team had turned around. You know, we beat a team that we were supposed to beat, especially in week 1, and you know the hype just builds on from there, right? But that team we beat in week 1 by 1 point got their asses handed to them by the Miami Dolphins 70-20. And then we go up against a contending Bills team that just lost to the New York Jets, and we get our asses handed to us. And then we go into week 3 with even more momentum, even more hype. You know, we had a lot of things planned up for this past weekend. All of Raider Nation did, because it was the home opener game, and we're excited to see what this team can do. We go up against a Steelers team that really isn't that good outside of their defense. It was definitely a winnable game for us, and we shit the bed in our own home. And on top of that, there was a lot of Steeler fans in town with their ugly ass towels out there, which was really, really frustrating to see and watch, and just to hear most of the crowd out there just cheering for their team and booing the Raiders. Definitely not a scenery you want to be at. And I know, as bad as the game did look for majority of the game, the Raiders ended up giving us a little bit of hope at the end. We were almost coming back, and then they shot our hopes all the way down like they usually do. And that frustrated me even more leaving the stadium, seeing how this team looked from top to bottom, offensively, defensively. It just looked bad. We knew our defense wasn't good coming into this game. They gave up a huge play to tie up the ball game 7 apiece after we went out there and we scored the very first points of the game. From there on, I can't really blame the defense much more. It felt like our offense went out there and went out, went out there, went out. They couldn't do anything until the end of the game when we finally started putting things together, and Jimmy G found Davante Adams for his second touchdown of the game. But you take a look at the whole picture, you take a look at this team in general, time management isn't there. Hondo Carpenter even called out Josh McDaniels on his time management in this game.
You don't not care about the clock, and then 4 minutes later care about the clock and kick a field goal saying, gee, I hope we got enough time. Give me a break. It's like somebody going out to Dairy Queen and eating 10 large vanilla cones dipped in cherry. Ooh, those are good. And then walking home saying, man, I'm really concerned about my blood sugar. What? No, you're not.
The urgency to even worry about the clock, it just wasn't there. On top of all of that, being an offensive-minded guru like Josh McDaniels is supposed to be, just like John Gruden was just prior to this, our offense still did not look great out there. We spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of effort, we spent a lot of money on the offensive side of the ball, yet they go out there and look like the worst thing that this team has outside of the defense. The defense is going to be the defense. Max Crosby is going to be Max Crosby. He got a sack in this game. We were putting a little bit of pressure here and there on the quarterback, but Kenny Pickett was still able to make plays downfield. Obviously, when we needed the defense to really step up at the end of the game to make one more stop to give the offense yet another chance, they didn't come through. But can I blame them? They've been on the field most of the game. The offense couldn't get nothing going. There was no momentum out of that first score that we had throughout this whole game until we started putting things together, but a little too late. Like I said, clock management was not there.
Josh, you're down 16 and over 6 minutes to go. You're huddling. Your team's walking to the line of scrimmage. There didn't seem to be a sense of urgency with the clock at all. So with that situation, you decide to kick the field goal with one of the most highly paid offenses in your quarterback. Can you talk about the clock management there, please?
Yeah, I mean, when the score was what it was, we needed multiple possessions to go. We needed to do the right thing with multiple possessions. So, whether we were mixing in the tempo, we were mixing in, huddling, trying to still stay with some of the runs, in the second half there in the fourth quarter where they're playing split safety defense and trying to really take away Davante and Jacoby and some of the receiver play. And that's when, Josh hit a couple of the runs there in the fourth quarter. So, just trying to do the right thing, trying to be productive as best we can. And like I said, mixing in the tempo as we went.
What? No, you're not.
Jimmy G had a horrible game. I know the stat line looks a little bit good outside of the interceptions, but those interceptions overlook the stat sheet that he had in this game. Like I said, Jimmy G went 28 for 44, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he got sacked 4 times. The offensive line look bad out there, definitely, in the pass game and in the running game. And speaking of the running game, Josh Jacobs, yet again, does not look good out there. Whether or not you want to blame the offensive line or Josh Jacobs had 17 carries, 62 yards. Definitely the best stat line that he had throughout the season, but still not enough. We brought him back to pay him $12 million to look like that. That was another thing I was wrong about. I know that running backs don't get paid a lot, but I was still pushing for Josh Jacobs to get paid. But now it really feels like we could have just went out there with any running back and they could have put that same stat sheet up, whether it was Zamir White or any of these other bums that we have in the backfield. The only 2 receivers that really got a lot of love in this game and showed out was Davante Adams and Jacoby Myers. It was great to have both of those guys out there playing, but still, stats don't mean shit. That's one reason why a lot of Raider fans were tired of Derek Carr, because the stats look good, but they weren't equaling wins. So looking at the stat sheet, Davante Adams had a great game. 13 receptions, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jacoby Myers had a solid game, 7 receptions for 85 yards. Hunter Renfrow got 2 receptions in this game, still not being utilized much in the offense. It's just frustrating to watch this team go out there and look the way they did against a team that we could have definitely beat, and we're barely even putting up 13, 15 points a game. There's no excuse for that. We have an offensive-minded head coach. We got a star wide receiver with a star wide receiver 2. We got a star back, we got a solid offensive line, and we're still not able to get the job done. It's really frustrating watching this team. It's really frustrating putting a lot of energy into this team and seeing the type of product that they're putting out there on the field Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. There was a lot of hype coming into this season. I know I'm at fault for that as well, because I hyped up this team. I know that Jimmy G wasn't the number 1 option going into this offseason. It was definitely Tom Brady, but his whole ass wanted to retire. But getting Jimmy G, I still felt like he could have went out there and won us games. But so far, we have not been winning games. Back-to-back L's, this last one being worse than the week prior. It just really makes you think about the whole offseason in general, the moves that we made. There was a lot of questionable ones here and there, paying Jacoby Myers all the money just to come over here, just for our offense to look like that when we could have spent that money more on the defensive side of the ball. We go and get Marcus Peters, who had a key dropped interception, a wide open pick 6 that could have changed the whole momentum of this game. That definitely hurt us. And then you think about going out and drafting a guy in Tyree Wilson who still looks horrible out there, slow off of the line. I know I gave him the benefit of the doubt in the very first game, but man, you can't be that bad, can you? I know the whole Chandler situation kind of fucked this whole thing over, but still, I don't want to put too much blame on that. The defensive tackle position, my goodness, man, is horrible. We always seem to neglect that position. And I know I've seen a lot of Raider fans keep talking about we should have got Jalen Carter. Look at how he's... There is no way in hell that we could have gotten Jalen Carter, especially after what happened to Henry Ruggs. I don't want to hear that. There's a lot of Raider fans out there just talking about that. There was no reason for us to get him as good as he's been looking right now. I'm not going to fault the Raiders for not doing that, but I do fault the Raiders for passing up on talent, especially in the secondary where we desperately need help at, or a linebacker that we could have definitely added to the team to help, outside of Robert Spillane. We passed up on a guy like Christian Gonzalez in the draft that I was hoping and praying that we could have gotten. We passed up on a talent like that to take a chance on Tyree Wilson. I put a lot of blame on Patrick Graham as well. I had a lot of expectations of him coming over here, changing this defense around, but this defense looks just as bad as they always have been. So all the hope and optimism that I had, I was wrong about that. I just got to reevaluate all of this moving forward. I don't even know if we're going to be a playoff team this year. I know it's only week 3 and we still got a whole season to go. But right now, I just don't see it. And one guy that doesn't seem like he wants to wait a whole season to figure things out is none other than our star wide receiver, Davante Adams. He was really frustrated after the game, talking his shit, being bold after the game, which I don't blame him. I mean, I feel like we're wasting his talent over here in Las Vegas. This is one of, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL, and we still can't get the job done. And for him to go out there and try to do all he can do out there, and yet we fall short, I definitely feel his frustration.
I act like it's all crazy. It's, it's week 3, but I don't got time to wait around. I mean, it's not a personal thing. I mean, it is a personal thing, but it ain't just about me. But I mean, it's not my mentality to sit here and try to take all season to figure it out. You use these early games like this to establish our identity, and we're not doing things the right way to establish a winning culture early in the season. So we got to do something to turn that around. Doing something about it so that when we go out there the next time, it looks different. It's not supposed to just be a week of just talking about shit. We got to go out there and do it. That's the theme of this year, is doing it, not just talking about it and figuring out what we need to do. We did all that last year. This year we got to be about it.
Now, after listening to that, I understand where his frustration is at, especially in the team and the coaches. I know that there's a lot of speculation saying that he might want to be out, and I wouldn't blame him if he did want to leave. There will be a lot of teams out there that would love to have the services of Davante Adams, and if things don't get any better by the trade deadline, then maybe we do something. Maybe we make a move and try to start things new going into the next season. And that just sucks talking about right now because we still have a whole season to go. But what do you guys think, Raider Nation? Should the Raiders trade Davante Adams before it's too late? Or should we just keep him on board right now till the wheels fall off? Because honestly, I don't know what the hell Josh McDaniels is doing in this offense. He's definitely going to be in the hot seat this season. If things don't get better, then he might be out of here. Now, I know that there's a lot of fans that want Josh McDaniels to be fired right now. I just don't see that happening right now. I feel like the Raiders should just ride this until the wheels fall off after the season and make a decision from there, because there's no other choice out there. I mean, who would we bring up as an interim head coach? Be honest, guys. There's no reason to fire him right now. We should just let him ride out the rest of the season, and then from there, we figure out what we do next season. And last but not least, speaking of Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously he took a hard hit during the game. He went out of the game, got checked at halftime, but he came in and played the rest of the game. But for some reason, after the game, he got reevaluated and he missed his press conference, his post-game press conference, wasn't able to make it there. And then news comes out this morning that Jimmy G was placed on the NFL concussion protocol, according to Ian Rappaport. So what does that mean for the Raiders right now, moving forward into week 4 against the LA Chargers? That means that if Jimmy G isn't ready to go by this weekend, then we could possibly be seeing Aiden O'Connell make his debut, or even Brian Hoyer. And if Josh McDaniels had a brain of his own, if he was smart enough, Aiden O'Connell would be the guy to put in there. We might as well see what the rookie has, right? And see how he does with this offense. Maybe it'll look much better. Maybe it'll look worse. But we won't know until we see it out there. There should be no reason why Brian Hoyer should be playing this weekend coming up. The only reason why he's even on this team right now is to be a mentor for Aiden O'Connell. So if Jimmy G isn't able to go, my choice for the quarterback to start this weekend would be number 4, Aiden O'Connell. But what do you guys think about that, though, Raider Nation? Who should start this weekend? Let me know down in the comments below if you have to choose between Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer. Overall, like I said, I wish I could have dropped the video sooner, right after the game, but man, my voice was beat. It was a busy weekend. As much as we partied and celebrated the whole weekend leading up into the game, it just felt like it wasn't worth it. You know what I mean? After seeing how the team looked out there. But with that said, though, Raider Nation, man, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification icon button if you guys haven't already. Until the next video, this is your boy, Simone Raider, and your boys, yeah.